Welcome to Beyond the Case, which is a podcast where we unpack real leadership stories, which goes beyond titles, balance sheets, and business theory. Today's guest is someone who is quietly but powerfully shaping the food manufacturing landscape in East Africa, and he's done so for about 3 decades. My guest today is Rajan Shah. He's the founder and CEO of Capwell Industries. Rajan was in OPM 67 with me. Rajan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hi, Sohin. Yes, and good to see you as well after 2, 3 months now being away. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Rajan, just for the benefit of the listeners, can you just give a more detailed overview about who you are, what you do, what kind of business you're in?
Okay. Thanks, Sohin. So basically, I'm African, all and soul. I was born in Kenya, and my family has been in Africa for over 115 years now. So I kind of pretty much consider myself as very much an African here. And I was born in Kenya and obviously did my education here and then went overseas for a while into the UK for about a decade. Always, my heart was always to get back, go back to Kenya and just do start a business there. I got back to Kenya about 30 years ago, and then I started a career in investment banking for a while. But just keeping in mind that I always wanted to start my own business. Whilst my father was part of a bigger family business, which he had been in for 35 years, I chose to kind of take a different path of starting my own business. And my brother and I then in 1997 started this food manufacturing business under the name of Capwell Industries. We first started in what we kind of knew best, which my father was also kind of very much part and mentor in, which was in the grain milling industry. So we started in maize milling, which is the staple food for the major part of the population here. And most of the maize is grown in the country and then you mill. And what we started was actually kind of into a branded commodity space. Eventually, as time went on, we got into other value chains like rice milling. We then picked up pulses and wheat milling. So all the basic staples. And that's pretty much 2 decades on. That's all the different value chains that we invested in and put up milling plants here. In the last maybe 7, 8 years, we also started going to higher value add, where we use these primary cereal products to make baked products, biscuits, cookies. We went into beverages. Now we are going into ready-to-eat meals. So staying pretty much in the food and beverage space, but innovating now, horizontally growing. So that's one of the businesses that we are actively growing and now also expanding into East Africa, into the neighboring countries of Tanzania and Uganda as well. But also in the last 3 decades, we've also kind of gone into other business spaces as a group, as a family, which is one is floriculture. Kenya is actually one of the largest exporters of cut roses in the world. So we saw this opportunity very early on. About in 2003, we invested into flower farms, and that's another kind of part of the group business, which is also kind of growing. And we still export cut roses into Europe, into US, into Middle East, and so forth. Yeah.
For anyone who's outside the region, East Africa, what do you think is most misunderstood about doing business in East Africa, particularly in Kenya?
Yeah, I think always most people will hear negative narratives around Africa. First of all, of course, is the cost of doing business. The ease of doing business is something that people always hear. What people hear about is when you come here, it's difficult. There's corruption. The cost of doing business is high. So this is all the narratives. But to be honest, I mean, having done business here, it's really kind of not as bad. Now, in fact, if I say Africa is kind of the focal point of the world, because we have a population in Africa which is about 1.2 billion, which is actually going to grow to over 3 billion in the next decade or so. So we have a huge population and a growth, and also a young population. And so the youth population in Kenya is between the age of 17 and 35 constitutes nearly about 70% of the population. So we are in a very kind of good space here, and we always encourage investors from around the world to look at this part of the world positively. Kenya actually remains one of the hub in this region. If you look at some of the global businesses like Google, Amazon is also thinking of coming, Microsoft, they've all set up their hubs here to grow into the East African part of the world, in this region as well. So I would basically say that it's an investable part of the world, and we definitely do want to kind of partner with investors from around the world who want to come and set up and expand their businesses in this part. And I'm happy to kind of also kind of point in the right direction and guide people. Of course, there are always some blind spots to look out for, as I mentioned earlier on. Yes, I mean, we people have to kind of come with a little bit of an open mind. There is definitely corruption. I would not say that there is no corruption, but it's all manageable. It doesn't stop people from actually starting businesses and growing businesses here.
At your company, how do you balance innovation with maintaining consistency in product quality and in supply?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a very good question, because one of our six values of our organization is actually innovations. We have been extremely deliberate about innovating, and that forms the DNA of our organization. From the onset, when we started in this business, when there were already established pairs, one of the things we decided to do is innovate, whether it was process innovations, product innovations, packaging innovations, and this is what kind of set us apart from competition as well. So innovation is kind of again something completely embedded. It doesn't at all kind of in any way conflict with quality. We also from the onset decide to use the best technology which is available globally. So we don't go for mediocrity, and that helps us to kind of ensure that we maintain good quality in our products. Also, the other thing that we also do is ensure we benchmark against global companies. So when it comes to quality systems, we don't want to compare with competitors in the country or the region. What is the global standard? We try to aim to achieve to certain global standards, so that even if we are not exporting into the global scene, but we want to set ourselves to be ready to be in that space.
Rajan, as a leader, what are some of the values that guide your decision?
I think right at the top sits integrity. It's one of that values which I think very much kind of has been embedded into us both by my parents as well. That look, you can do business, but do ethically, whereby you do not need to step on the toes of others or step over others to be able to do business. You can actually create what are called win-win relationships with your partners, your business partners, your stakeholders, even whether it's with government or whether it's with your customers or your suppliers, and be able to achieve to kind of still do good business, be profitable business, whereby you're ensuring that when you're going onto the table, you are both kind of winning in that. That's what ensures that we have a sustainable business. And that integrity kind of cuts across, and it's something that we cascade down to even our shop floor workers, so that when we want to also give an assurance to our customers that look, what we are producing in terms of our products, we have the integrity sits right in the middle. They're assured of that what we are saying on the packaging is what we are giving. Or when it comes to our suppliers, that when we are buying from them, we're not out there to kind of make a quick buck, or to ensure that we are just there to complete negotiate and cut them to the bottom right. And I think the other one that probably is close to my heart is agility. I think as a owner, as a uh, as a founder of a business, we've been through this journey where agility has played a very important role. I mean, being able to make decisions, quick decisions, on the spot decisions at times, and encouraging now my big team to be able to kind of work through in that way has helping us to kind of stay lean and at the same time efficient and motivated as well. So we try to as avoid to become too bureaucratic as an organization.
How many employees do you have?
As a group, we have over about 1,200 employees. That includes the farming side and, of course, the manufacturing side. As a total group, yes. But as Capwell Industries, we have about 800 employees.
And have you all raised capital for the business, or is this completely self-funded?
Right now, it's still founder owned and founder led. We obviously kind of do get approached by private equity investors or strategic investors. Yet we have not yet kind of taken the route of going to raise capital. And even if we do look for a strategic partner, it would be not more for capital, but more for gaining strategic alliances to gain management knowledge and also technical knowledge is what would kind of trigger us to kind of build those kind of partnerships, especially where we want to kind of expand and regionally grow and work with partners who already have that kind of expertise to grow in globally as well.
So, what's your vision for Catwell over the next decade?
So if I look at the purpose, we have what is called the purpose of the organization, which is enrich lives through nutrition, and that's what guides us. So we pretty much want to stay as our vision is kind of to provide safe, convenient, and nutritious foods to our consumer, and by enrich lives to nutrition, what are we talking about? That all our different stakeholders, whether it's our farmers to whom we buy all our raw materials, or whether it's our customers who distribute our goods, or whether it's our consumer, or whether it's our employee. I mean, how can we create an organization which actually is sustainable first of all, we and also kind of is able to kind of create a win-win relationship with each of these stakeholders. That's the vision. The vision is to grow Pan Africa and to establish ourselves. And in doing so, I think the real purpose here is to actually see how we can grow in the countries that we want to invest in. We want to grow the farming community so that we actually kind of being able to bring a real impact to the poor people in all these countries, which are the farmers who are probably at times barely kind of making any kind of income, and how do we kind of be able to do that sustainably is what our vision is. At the same time, on the market side, we want to ensure that we're able to give our consumers, as I said, safe and nutritious food, but at the same time, bring a lot of more convenience as well. So it's a vision which I hope is going to take us not only the next 10 years, but probably the next 20 years. And it's going to give us, as also technology is moving on, as we are seeing a lot of innovations happening in the space of plant food, proteins, and protein is becoming a big thing. It gives us an opportunity to play in that space, both from the growing side and also from the processing side as well.
Your business has now been around for close to 3 decades. How do you cultivate resilience, especially during tough periods like any economic downturns or any supply disruption?
Yeah, man. Again, a very good question. So, and I mean, obviously, the if we look at what just about now, we're almost forgetting, but about 5 years ago when COVID hit, some of the biggest supply chain disruptions we saw then at that time. We as a country rely a lot, especially for our wheat milling. We rely a lot on importation from Russia, Ukraine, and that part of the world. And when COVID hit, I mean, all the shipping lines were all over the place. The shipping costs had really gone through the roof. So this is when I think it opened up our eyes in terms of how we need to become resilient as a country and as a company as well. And more that resilience is through seeing how we can onshore a lot of our supplies, how we can work with farmers here, and try and see that we do not become too dependent on importation of our raw materials. Also resilience in terms of also as far as our employees are concerned. I think, I mean, we worked extremely well during this COVID period. We also kind of go through, I mean, other than this COVID, we every 5 years there is always a cycle of drought in this part of the world. And that has also taught us over the last 3 decades of how to become resilient in terms of our supply chains. I mean, it's almost guaranteed that every 5 years we're going to have a drought. Frankly speaking, the climate change, global climate change is hitting Africa much harder. It hits our food security extremely hard, and then cost of food goes up, affordability is becomes a challenge. So again, how do we start kind of looking at growing a lot more of our own food is something which is not only on top of the agenda of the government of the day, but also of companies like us as well. And that's where we can bring in a lot more resilience in our businesses.
Rather than zooming out now, what's a principle that you wish more leaders embrace?
I think as leaders, I think we need to work with a purpose, and it should be a bigger purpose. And the bigger purpose should be something which can have a lasting human impact. That's one thing I keep on also kind of thinking through myself, that as I make decisions as a leader, what kind of a positive impact am I going to create, which will outlast me as well. And I think that becomes the North Star, with which kind of it makes it easier for us in terms of what and how we make our decisions. If our decisions are purely based on financial profitability or wealth creation, at a certain point in time, I think it doesn't just look still motivating at all. Whenever I kind of, even when I'm looking at a new business, I will kind of always kind of ask those questions. What is that impact it's going to, what's the lasting impact it's going to have to human beings? We all can do businesses where we can make money and grow. But there is something like, if I have to write my obituary, what is it that I'm going to write that is going to say that I'm proud of? I'm not going to write that, look, I made $1 billion, or, I mean, that's not going to be what my obituary should be. What should it be is how many thousands of lives did I touch on? And I hope that in a small way I can do that. And that's probably my guiding principle as a leader. And that also then comes back to how you interact with your employees. How do you interact with your other stakeholders? That becomes the North Star with which you kind of start looking at things.
If you had an advice for your younger version, maybe a 20-year-old Rajan, what would you tell him?
So, it's a very interesting question you've asked. As I got into OPM, whether it's a pleasant surprise or I saw that, look, the average age of the OPMer is about 44, and I'm really at the other tail end of that normal distribution. And I kind of looked at myself and I said, I wish I could be that younger Sohin, or the energetic. What has really kind of struck me, especially with this OPM, is that I see myself and I look at it. I look at myself maybe 3 decades ago, and I see the same kind of energy what I see in all of you, all of you young OPMers, right? Back to your question, what would I say to my younger self? I wouldn't say anything different from what I'm thinking right now, to be honest. It's not that I wish I'd done something differently. Maybe 3 decades ago, technology was not as fast paced as what it is right now, right? I wish maybe I could have embraced more of technology 3 decades ago. But honestly speaking, the speed with which the world is going with all this AI and Internet of Things and automation, I mean, it's working at extremely fast pace. All I will say to my younger self, if it from a career point of view, is that the world has changed. It's no what we thought was relevant as a profession, as a career, may no longer be the same relevance that we have now. The younger and the youth have to really think very differently, because the world has really changed. I have a daughter who is doing medicine, and sometimes I ask that, and I ask to myself that, look, maybe in a few years, maybe some of the things that she wants to do may become irrelevant. So she may have to start thinking, even in the world of medicine, what kind of things that she needs to kind of also become specialist in, so that technology just doesn't overtake that as well.
I just want to clarify for the listeners that Rajan may make it sound like he's on the other end of the normal distribution, but he's not. He was one of the biggest party animals at OPM, going for a basketball match with us and quite a few dinners as well. Did you go for the Brian Adams concert as well? I can't recollect.
I missed that one, but believe me, the next one I'm definitely going to be with you guys.
Going back to the program, can you walk us through what motivated you to apply to OPM?
Okay, this is going to make you laugh, actually. So here's the thing, and let me tell you this story, because I love to tell this story. 34 years ago, that is in 1991, I had this dream of going and doing an MBA at Harvard Business School. So what did I do? I just finished my master's at university. I just hopped into a plane and just landed into Boston and booked into a hotel in Cambridge. And in those days, there was no internet. I had this directory in which I looked up one of the MBA students there, who was from UK. I called. I just did a cold call, and I said that, look, I have this aspiration to do an MBA. That can I come and shadow you? And he said, yeah, you're most welcome. And I did a whole day of shadowing. The gentleman at that time was called Harpal Singh. He was actually from McKinsey. And he took me for a whole day. Fast forward, my MBA ambitions never came to fruition, and I just parked it away somewhere. And I said maybe one of the fine days I'm going to again still go to Harvard Business School. About 5 years ago, another OPMer I met who became a good friend. He didn't even know I had this aspiration, but he told me that you need to go and do the OPM program. So it kind of got stuck in my mind. This was 5 years ago. But unfortunately, because of my social commitments I had here, I had taken some national social roles. I decided that maybe I'll do it later. And hence, this was one of my biggest motivations of coming, that I got this referral, but there was also something hidden in my heart or brain that I had this aspiration of 34 years ago that I needed to kind of also fulfill. And I have no regrets, basically. Of course, this is just the beginning of the three, but I love it. I love that getting onto that OPM program. Yeah.
Are there any specific principles or frameworks from OPM that you still find yourself revisiting and applying in your day-to-day work?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to kind of point any one, because to me, every aspect has been relevant, whether it's crisis management by Gibson, or whether it's operational excellence by Professor Anand Raman, or it's the of course our favorite Das. Around consumers and how do you see everything in one way or another. Even when I was in the lecture room, I would always find a way to connect to my business in one form or another. I mean, of course, there's just so much there to kind of digest and kind of figure out and untangle that what's going to work, what doesn't work. But I think in the subconscious mind, all these learnings is going to find its way, or it's finding its way through different ways and decision makings, and also mindset to be changed. It's helping, and I just need to kind of keep that same habit of kind of going back and reading my notes, reading also helpfully some other notes by other people who made on the summary of the OPMers, which was great. I mean, I tell you, I mean, I was so happy, and to see how people selflessly also gave their notes to share, and that's amazing. It's selflessness. It's I call charity. So of course this is the first part of the program, but I'm trying to connect the dots. I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere very close, but I'm definitely finding some usefulness from what I've learned. Yeah.
Is there any book you want to talk about which has influenced the way you think, whether it's on leadership, strategy, or life, or business?
Yeah, I think the one that I will talk about is the most popular one, which is Stephen Covey's Seven Habits, right? I've made it a point of giving every new employee of mine at middle level and senior level, every time they join, I have to give that book to them, and that has given me the toolkits on how to start thinking of in terms of building the habits to become an effective leader, effective person. I've also given to my children. I'm not sure yet, but I believe they're reading it.
Rajan, if you were not leading a company, what do you think you would be doing?
I would be traveling the world. I love traveling, and I would be hiking, and I would be climbing. Well, I'm not sure in this life I'll be able to climb Everest, but I've done smaller hikes like the base camps. I'm going to be climbing I did the Everest base camp about 2 years ago. I'm going to be doing the Annapurna circuit in another 2 months.
Wow.
I would love to be with nature, and I would love to kind of really be traveling. That's my other passion. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed. I will be healthy enough to be doing more of.
What would you recommend young entrepreneurs today if you could give them one piece of advice?
If I look at myself as the young entrepreneur, I would say that, and this is probably something that when I look at the closing remarks made by Professor Anand, is you need to give your shot. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to fail. I've seen many failures along the way. I mean, I would say that but don't be afraid to fail. Go for it, and the more you fail early on, the stronger you'll become. and the more resilient you'll become, and the more you will actually become successful further on in life. So my take is be an entrepreneur. I mean, I have been an entrepreneur. It's been a lovely, enjoyable journey. It still keeps me. If there's something that gets me out of bed every day, it's being an entrepreneur. It's not being a manager, or it's being an entrepreneur. It's always thinking, what's the next thing I want to create. So it's really fun. Look for a mentor who can guide you so that you don't have too many falls that you give up. So look out for that mentor as well. It's useful.
Thank you very much, Rajan. I appreciate your time. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Sohin, and look forward to seeing you later this year.
Yes, likewise. Take care. Be well.
Okay, cheers, bye.